Hey, everybody, it's Dave, Tech Experts, and I'm talking about backups today. We just came through a big storm season or storm event, I should say, really, here in Florida. I'm over in the Jacksonville side, so I'm on the northeast side, but a big hurricane hit the west coast, blew on up through Georgia. It's hitting South North Carolina currently, or is probably almost done with them. But it was a major event and major helped me to remind me and my everyone else I know that it's critical you put your backup in place and do it before you need it. So what I mean by that, well, when the hurricane hits and everything floods, even if you're not right really in the path. So I used to live in Fort Myers, and that flooded out as it got flooded last year. It re-flooded again 2 days ago when the hurricane hit, or a day ago, based on, well, I think it was yesterday. Yesterday it probably flooded out, on the night before it was flooding out from the hurricane blowing through the Gulf, even though it wasn't touching any land at that point. And it kind of reminded me like how critical it is to get our backups in place and why we want to do them before we need them. So in case something like that happens, you're not trying to back up everything while the storm's going on, hoping you don't lose power if you're trying to back up to the cloud, or lose power as you're backing up to your local device that you may want to be able to take with you. And the idea that you could grab a device and take it with you in case something happens, like your house floods flooding. You may not be able to pick up your whole PC at that point and run out the door and toss it in the back of the car, or be able to put it on a place where it's safe, or just really have a good way to keep it all together. So having a real backup in place ahead of time is key. So that's what I want to talk about. Like, what's the process now, right? You need a backup. Okay, I need a backup. Where do I start? Well, before you don't do anything, let's just pick something. Start someplace. First thing I'd say to do is be organized. Organize your data. Even if it doesn't mean you do the backup, at least go through and get all of your data in orders, basically. Put things in folders. Make sure you're getting rid of the duplicates. Clean up your data is one of the biggest things you can do to help the backup process go smoothly and be more cost efficient too. When you don't have duplicate data, you can save space and not have to worry so much. The next thing you want to do is consider how much data you're going to need to back up and what is that minimum amount to be, and then how much do you think you could estimate you might grow in needing to back up over the next like 6 months or a year. So that's a great place to start. Once you've organized all your data, you can do something as simple as like basically saying select all and then hit properties on it if you're on the Windows, and it will calculate your size for you of that total amount. And then once you know the total amount of all the data you need to back up, you can pick a plan or a device or a combination of the two that will be bigger than that amount, so you have room for growth with your backup. All right. Number 3 is going to be let's talk about having a local backup as opposed to having a cloud backup, and why I believe you really should have both. And then we're going to talk about backup tools to go with that. So a local backup basically means it's something that is in-house for you. Basically, it can be an extra hard drive on the machine, or it can be an extra external hard drive you're attaching to the machine, or it could be what they call a NAS, which basically means a set of hard drives that's in a box that's connected to your network. That can be your backup. That's all going to be like local based, right? Cloud based is the other recommended solution, or something where it's off site. So if you're still going to do an offsite solution, and it's not going to be a cloud solution, you're going to remote to another machine or another device someplace else, a server or a backup solution on a friend's computer, maybe that's in another city or another building or not where you are, and you're going to transfer the files across the internet to that. So most people use cloud services. So those are the ones I would recommend for that. All right, let's go ahead and talk about backup tools. With the cloud services, a lot of times they'll give you a tool or syncing it, and that's the easiest way to do the backup. Basically tell it to automatically run and back up every file that's changed or has been added since the last time it ran. So the first time it runs, it's going to back up everything because it's all new to it. And then after that, they'll call it incrementation backup. Basically means it's going to add on everything that's new and anything that it sees is updated or changed since the last backup ran, and it will back that back up and basically add that to what you already have in the cloud. Now, if it's a newer version or an updated version of the same file, most of the times it'll make a history note on the cloud solution and then right over it so there's not extra space being wasted. Now, all that space is why you want to figure out how much you're going to need when you are doing your cloud backup, right? Because the more space you got to buy from them, the more it costs you. And then you also figure out how fast it will let you upload. That's one of those things to consider when you're looking at the cloud-based solutions. And that can be something even as simple as AWS. So Amazon has a cloud solution, and they have more than one version to pick from. So make sure if you're using the Amazon ones, I'll add that to my links, that you pick the one that makes sense for you. Like the one they'll call it Glacier basically means it's data that you don't ever plan to need to recover or access on a regular basis. It's just something you're archiving basically. So really fast to back up generally, like the upload speed is fast. The speed to pull it down or to access it or recover it may be slower. So that could be a day to several days, depending on what part of the plan you're on. But it's also one of the most cost-effective plans for the amount of space you have. Other cloud solutions I like is SpiderOak One. They're great for their security level of backups. I also like iDrive. I use iDrive personally. I've used Carbonite. That one is nice and easy. I have a video comparing the two. I probably need to do a new round and update it and see if anything's changed in the past couple of years, but I did like iDrive a little bit better over Carbonite, but they both can make sense for you. You can do something like Dropbox. If you have a Dropbox account, that's a great way, especially if you plan on doing sharing with it. Dropbox could be a great way to do it. Just consider that separate from your share. So keep those in mind that you want it separate from your share. You can do your Google Drive. You could do your OneDrive with Microsoft, and you can do your iCloud from Apple. Those are all ways to do your backup. Like iCloud Plus lets you buy a certain amount of space and back up to them. Now consider what you're backing up, because depending upon what you're backing up, you may run into issues with you trying to access it or recover it often or stream from it. That won't be allowed if you're looking at doing music, movies, or things that have a copyright that you don't own. So keep that in mind. We're really looking at like, how do I back up all my data? That's the biggest thing. I want to make sure you're backing up your pictures, your data, and all the files that are critical to you. Now, if it's things that you've owned, CDs you've ripped, DVDs you've ripped, and you have a copy of them on the shelf, and you just want to be able to stream them, then maybe you should be looking at something different, like a NAS drive, and setting that up to be able to be remoted to over the internet if you want to do that. That's a great way to do that one. Still kind of have that cloud feeling, but still have a local session all at once. Now for the local side, let's talk about some of those options. That can be a big hard drive inside your machines. You can buy a big spinning hard drive. I know those aren't super popular anymore, but they still work great because they don't need to be really fast. You're not trying to video edit or anything like that. You're really looking at for storage, and long-term storage is the big thing there. You can also do, like I said, what's called a NAS. It's a network attached storage. It's a box that has a little motherboard in it and this processing power, and you put in a series of hard drives in them. They're generally all the same size, but they don't always have to be. And basically you create a whole drive together out of them, and everything is basically able to be accessed there. They'll also often have extra apps and tools you can use with the NAS. So it may let you be a streaming device. It may let you be an automated storage device and automate the process. And the easiest one that I know of personally to use is really getting an external hard drive. That's my biggest favorite one for doing a backup that's local, is just getting a large external hard drive or a set of external hard drives And maybe you put one for your pictures, one for your music, and one for all the business files that's separate. And then those are easy to take with you. And they can go from machine to machine. You can use USB most of the time. It's most common. And if you're getting the really fast ones, you may be getting the Thunderbolt Lightning type things. Those will be a quicker connection. That'll give you more speed. But they're cost effective. They're portable. I like that. And they're easy to attach from one machine to another. And they're easy to take with you. And they're not going to break the bank for the most part for what you're getting. Now, they generally won't be super huge. Some of the bigger ones aren't quite as portable and easy to use, but they're still a great choice. So keep that in mind, how much space you're going to need. Like I said, you can always run more than one of those drives depending upon what you want. And I like those because they're easy to put in a bag. And if you really want long-term storage that's local and keep it safe, have 2 drives, put one in someplace that's like a safe, and put one right on your machine, and then rotate those drives every month or so. All right, so recovery, let's talk about that a little bit. You want to make sure whatever solution you're using that you test out your recovery process. So figure out after you've done a full backup, what do you need to do to be able to get your files back in case something happens? Is it easy to access? Are there extra steps you have to go through? Is it just a matter of clicking the download and hoping that it's quick enough, or do you have to wait? Do you want to add a feature where you could have a drive shipped to you with all your data? And that could be an extra feature or an extra cost with it, but it can speed things up. It can also speed some things up to have the drive shipped to you blank, load your drive locally, and then ship it back to the online cloud storage solution where they'll put it in the cloud for you and then let you back up everything moving forward onto that same space or drive that you have. And that can speed up the process of doing a large backup so that you don't have to run all your internet service uploading for hours and hours and hours to try to get everything onto the cloud. All right. Look at automation of tools is the other thing I recommend with this. Like I said, try to find something that has a tool, or if you have to get a backup tool, there are a few out there that you can find that are good. There are major ones out there. I'll see if I can link up some in the show's description down below for tools or software apps that you can use to do the backup. Basically, that's going to automate it where it runs every scheduled, every hour or every night or every week, depending upon how often you want to do your backups. I really recommend that the very minimum you do nightly. I think that's really the best way. If it's critical, then you may want to look at doing it more often throughout the day to do that backup. Okay. And where do you start? Well, just start someplace. Hey, Marsha, it's good to see you. I just want everyone to start someplace when it comes to backup. If you haven't done a backup yet and you don't have everything all scheduled out, planned out, just create a folder in one of your cloud solutions that you have. Maybe see how much free space you have and go and start backing up everything that's critical to there. So in case you lost anything, that you would have at least something rather than delaying the process to say, I've got to put everything in place. I've got to order everything and make sure it's all good. Go ahead and just start. Starting is big. You can always go back through, delete everything off, and restart the process once you got it all cleaned up. And remember, it's okay to breathe, and remember you're safe. You are okay. If you lose everything, it generally can be recovered in some sort of way, but it's best if you have a solution and a plan in place to make it easy. And try to think ahead that if something happened and somebody else needed to be given the directions to recover your data or to go and get it for you, that you could be easily able to tell them, this is what you need to do. Here's the steps. Here's where it is. Here's how to log in. Here's how to access it. Here's the structure. This is right. What you need. Go right here and get it. The more you can do that work, and that pre-work, a lot of times that will be of like organizing it, putting it in place and figuring out how everything is together, the easier it'll be when something happens and you need it. And the unfortunate thing is life will happen and everyone at some time or another will need to recover data because it's lost. I've had hard drives die. I've zapped machines. I've had storm zap machines. I've had machines be overfilled with updates and things and run out of space and had to have them recovered. I've seen all the crazy things happen now that I thought I could have never seen. I even saw people that I worked with where we worked on a project and we didn't know an issue of a bad drive. We lost a whole drive of a person's like multi-$100,000 million proposals because we didn't get to replace their drive in time and they didn't bother to put a backup in place before we could get to their drive replacement. So if you know there's any sort of issue with it, it's going to be critical that you put that backup in place, because when you don't do that, the catastrophe will be amplified when it happens. And if you do have something in and drive dies, there are services out there that can work to dig hard to recover it. It just costs you a lot more money than it would to do the little bit of work up front, even buying an external hard drive and buying a cloud service and running both of those and having them both in place. Like I said, I really recommend everyone to have more than one backup solution in place. So a cloud solution, a local solution, and then if you want to do a dual cloud and have a redundancy that way in case one of those services has something happen to your account and you can't access it, you would have another place to get your data from. And consider the cloud solution that you're using. Are they somehow scanning or looking at your data, or is it straight like super security orientated where they're like, we don't know what you're storing, whatever you store there, you're buying space, that's all you're doing. So keep that in mind. If it's more like we're going to analyze your data to help you be a better product, or are you paying a little bit more and being like, security is my big issue here, and I don't want anybody to know about it, and I need to keep it safe in case something happens, or in case I just need it later on for some project or something I didn't plan for. Life will always happen. Things will always happen. Having a backup is important to have, and it's critical you get it going before you need it and before the emergency puts you in the place where you need to get one going. The hurricane kind of reminded me of that in a major way. Like, we need to make sure we have everything in place because we don't ever know if it's going to turn weird and go sideways and cut right across through us, or something's just going to happen. The storm will knock out all the power for us. I heard people saying they lost power for a day or so yesterday or during the storm while the trees came down, even though we weren't in the path of it. So even if you're not around what may feel like a hurricane, a tornado, or whatever other storm you may be, something weird can just happen. Someone could drive through a power line or post or hit something and take all your stuff out. And that's why I think it's so critical that you have your data backed up ahead of time and that you have ways to access it when it's backed up. So test your cloud solutions, test your local solutions. And if you're doing local, keep in mind, like, hopefully you have a laptop or something like that you could hook it up to and be able to get to it in case the power goes out. Yep, with natural disasters being and what they are now, does the backup recommendation serve as a good disaster plan? Yes would be my answer. I am glad I can answer your question for you, Marcia. I definitely think a backup server is a great way to go with the natural disasters. I also think having a local backup as well as a cloud one is really a great choice. And then if you wanted to run more than one local style as well, a NAS or a local server, a external hard drive solution, and a cloud, you can do that. Having more than one copy in more than one place is the best way to keep yourself insulated against anything happening. And remember, if you're using one of the big national companies, the Googles, the Apples, the Microsoft, somebody that has a big, huge presence, they are generally spread across countries, across regions, and their data centers have redundancy. Basically means they'll have more than one copy of this stuff. So in case something happened to one machine there or one place was hit, they would have another way to recover that data in another location. That's all I really wanted to share today. I wanted to kind of just felt reassured, like, hey, it's a great time to be reminded, even if none of the storms or anything are hitting or affecting you or where you are, that there's still stuff going on and that weird things can just happen, even ransomware, and having secure and separated off backups can be a great way to recover from those type of things. So with the ransomware part of it, the best way to do that is have a backup, and then when you have it, have a way to rotate it so you can disconnect it from the network and the internet, so that if you get attacked by the ransomware, they won't be able to have access to your backup as well, and that keeps you safe. So just remember, stay informed, keep doing the stuff, and start someplace if you haven't started, and don't over stress about it. It can take time and it's worth doing. If you need help, make sure you click the link in my show's description. I have YouTube videos up on backup solutions as well, so go ahead and check out those. My channel is Tech Experts at YouTube, so go check me out over there if you're watching on Facebook. Thank you for joining me live, Marsha. I hope that you're having a good day. Everything is staying safe, and make sure you're doing well. Till I see you next time, keep making all the cool stuff.